Tonight's workshop is about using oil paint sticks. Last week was an introduction to oil paint sticks. So if you need an introduction to oil paint sticks, what they are, how to use them, the mediums that we use with them, then go look at last week's live show on my YouTube channel. What we're going to do tonight, and let me show you the piece that we finished last week. This is the piece, I finished it. So I just added a little bit more in here and finished off the light green in this area. But this is the painting that we worked on last week. We worked on a canvas board. And so this is actually now, it's almost dry. You see how I can put my fingers on it? It's touch dry in a week. Okay, so it took a week because I've been testing it every couple of days and it has taken the whole week. Hey, flower gazer, welcome in. So it has taken the whole week for this painting to become touch dry, with the exception of this area over here is still slightly tacky. And the reason for that is different pigments have different drying rates. So depending on what pigments are used in a particular area of your painting, that will determine how quickly that area sets up. During last week's show, I also showed you a piece that was on the ampersand board here. And what I wanted you to know is that on the ampersand board, this is still, can you see the paint on my finger? This is not an absorbent surface. The gesso, the primer, that blue and primer that I put in the background on the board is a little bit uh, porous. And so it helps the paint to dry faster. This being a panel, and it is gessoed, but it's not absorbent. It is not an absorbent gesso. So this painting is still wet because of that. And so that's just to give you an idea that different surfaces are going to be also going to affect your drying time, as well as the different pigments. I think this red area right here, the red dries faster. So it's a little bit, see, it's tacky, but it's not coming off on my fingers. But that white and green seems to really be need longer to dry. So that is still tacky. I'm going to put those aside right now. And then this is another piece that we did, or that I showed you last week, and it is on paper. This is a canvas paper, but it's made specifically for oils and acrylics. And you'll notice there's no bleed through here on the back. It's been drying for over a week. And on the front, because it's an absorbent surface, this is all dry already right here. Dry enough to where it can be shipped off to somebody and be put in a frame. And because it is oil paint, you don't have to put it behind glass. But because this is paper, I would put it behind glass um, in a frame. And that's called Lovely Poppy. So I can now, it's firm enough that I can go ahead and put it into a sleeve like this, and it's not going to stick to the sleeve. But within the last week, so this is over a week old and it's now available in my shop, Lovely Poppy. But this I made within the past week. So this is called Landscape from the Sky. And this was using the oil paint sticks that we're going to be using tonight and for the show. And these are the oil sticks right here from Sennelier, the brand Sennelier. We're going to use these in addition to the RNF sticks that we used last week. And so this I have on my website under the event for tonight, as well as on my um, YouTube channel under the community tab. There is a post where I showed some of these photographs of landscapes that I took from the sky, from airplanes. And so this is one of those that I did, Landscape from the Sky, I called it. And it's using these Sennelier oil paint sticks. So they're, like I explained last week, they're just oil paint, but with a little extra wax. embedded with them so that they can be in a stick and you can draw with them instead of using a paintbrush or a palette knife. Although you can also use a paintbrush and a palette knife with these as well. But it gives you that extra benefit of being able to draw with them, which is what I really like. And this, it's, see, I can touch it and it's not coming off on my fingers. It's about 4 days old. So what I'm finding is that these Sennelier oil sticks are a little more firm than the R&F oil paint sticks. So, oops, let me grab an R&F stick for you. So this is an R&F oil paint stick, also oil paint with wax in a stick form. And this is the Sennelier version of it. So what I'm finding is the Sennelier version is drying a little bit faster. It's still tacky. Notice that I don't yet have it in a plastic sleeve because if this is tacky, you don't want to put it inside or put anything directly on top of it because that will cause it to either make dents in the paint while it's still not quite dry yet, or it will stick to it. And then when you pull it out of the sleeve, it'll just pull the paint right away with it. And we don't want that to happen. So I actually just purchased, I'm so excited, and I'm going to be setting it up tomorrow or the next day. I just bought a drying rack. So it's a rack on wheels that has 36 shelves on it, about an inch apart each. And so a painting like this will just go right on a rack. And that way it will be not being touched by anything, but I'll be able to have a whole stack of up to 36 artworks on the shelf in just a vertical area, which is much more space saving, right? And then this will go on that shelf and it'll sit and have an opportunity to dry until it is ready to be shipped. But you can see I was using this photograph that I took from an airplane as inspiration for making this artwork, right? So that, but that is my own inspiration, and I do have available to you, like I said, on YouTube or on my website. This is another one of the photographs that I took from the sky that I thought was so cool. Um, Geez, I have, Lord knows, I have lots of reference photographs. I thought this was kind of cool as well. Here, hold on one moment. This one has this interesting snaky river. Do you see the river that's running through there? Right along here. So that makes that image also, I thought, very interesting for doing a landscape from the sky. It is helpful when you're an artist. It is helpful if you use your own photography for your inspiration. That way you don't have to worry about copyright issues, right, y'all? Now, for tonight's workshop, the inspiration is these couple of books. So this is the first book, Painting the Impressionistic Landscape. Oh my gosh. Now, this artist gives you projects in her book that, and what is her name? Dustan Knight. Dustan Knight. And here's an example on the back here. This is what made me think of an impressionist landscape. This is a seascape. And so her projects are a combination of watercolor and also, like, here's painting the flower garden. And woof, look at that. How fun is that? So very impressionistic. I love her, um, the way that she brings forth, like, see those flowers right there? This is the perfect kind of image for using with oil paint sticks because of just how the strokes are in there. It's very bold and yet it's not exact. Of course, you can use oil paints and get exact paintings, but my favorite with the oil paint sticks is to do artwork that's more expressionist. So these are some other of her seascapes that she talks about, walks you through in the book how to make. And this one right here that's on her easel. Now she's, as I said, using watercolor and acrylics in this book, but the exact same uh, visuals can work for doing with oil paint as well. So that's just something to bear in mind, that you don't have to restrict yourself when you're looking at a book to only the media that they're using. You can use all different kinds of media, whatever you prefer to use, to render some of these really interesting images. And don't worry, I will have links to these books, because I have one more book to show you in the description of the video on YouTube by tomorrow. So here is another one, and this is Monet's years at, how do you pronounce it? Giverny, I believe. But this is where he had his home with the lily pond, and did those beautiful outdoor images of the lily ponds. Oh, everybody knows Monet's lilies, but you may not know that he did some other, as he got older, into the late 1800s, his eyesight started to go. So his artwork got more and more impressionistic as his eyesight was going, because he couldn't make out the details. And it's funny, because a lot of times when you're painting something, if you want to get more loose, if you want to do something that's a little more impressionistic, you're told to squint your eyes so that so you have fuzzy edges, so you're not seeing sharp lines in whatever it is that you're painting, which is hysterical, because Monet's eyesight started to go. So his normal eyesight showed him images that were a little more fuzzy, which really lent to the impressionistic look of a lot of his later artworks. So I'm going to show you a couple of those right now. Let me see here. So let me see if I have one of his water lilies, like when he was seeing well. Let me see what we have here. Because of course we have, okay, so there's a bridge with the water lilies. I'm just looking to see if there's one of the classic water lilies. Okay. So here, for instance, is the bridge over his water lily pond. And so that painting, even though it's impressionistic, it is still a little bit what I would call tight. In other words, there's the bridge, and there you know exactly the lily pads in the pond, right? But as he got older, I'm going to show you what one of his so as he got older, everything got looser, a little bit looser, right? A little more impressionistic, and actually some that are in. Okay, so here's one that's a little more tight, and then boom, later, when he didn't see as well, there's just a riot of colors, and you're like, whoa, is that the same? He's looking at the same vista, but painting in a completely different style, right? And believe it or not, this one is also called one of his water lily paintings. Okay. So it is okay to be like really wackadoodle and throw just caution to the wind and just put color down, if it makes you happy. Okay. Because art is very personal to the artist, and it is okay. It's okay that it doesn't look the way anybody else thinks that it should, and you can name it whatever you want. So you can really confuse some people, right? Oh, with something like that. All right, let's talk about the paints we're going to be using tonight. I showed you a moment ago. This is the Sennelier oil sticks, and this is one of their kits. I like that they have themed sets. So this is the landscape set that I use to create this artwork with right here. Every color that's in here, I got out of this set. Now, here's another set, and this has colors in it, and this was their project. The cool thing is, if you scan this QR code on these boxes, it will take you on YouTube to the Sennelier to the Sennelier channel, where they show you making this painting, what they did to make the painting using the colors that are in the set. So the nice thing is, on the side of the set right here, it shows you exactly what colors are in the set. And when you open these, let me get this one open right here. What you're going to notice is each one of these sticks is wrapped. Oh, come on, you can come out. So this is what they look like inside the packaging. And you can see there's plastic on there. So each one of these has a wrap. You see the wrap there? And so you're going to have to take the wrap off, and I'll show you how to do that. I was messing with them and trying to figure out what's the easiest way to get this wrap off, right? So it doesn't totally destroy everything. And so I will show you that when we go over top of the table. This is the landscape one that I already unwrapped all of them and used them. So you can see here. And you can store them in here, or I just have a box that I usually just throw them in. I don't worry about it if they touch each other and get color on them, because as they dry, they're going to create a skin. This is, let me explain that to you. This one and the R&F ones like this. And these come in larger sizes also. This is the little sets that have the ones that you can purchase and experiment with, right? To see whether you like the oil sticks or not from them. And these are the full size ones from R&F, but these come in a larger size similar to this as well, by the Sennelier brand. And what you'll notice with these is that over time they develop the wax that's in these sticks turns into a skin. So you actually, before you can get to the paint on the inside, you actually have to pull the skin off. And that's true of both the Sennelier and the RNF and any other oil sticks. Excuse me, if they're formed into a stick, that means they have a little bit of wax in them to get them to be in a stick. So here's this one from R&F. I'm just going to show you. I'm using a blade and I'm going in here and I'm taking off that top layer. See there? So I'm taking off the top layer of wax and exposing the paint on the inside. So that's how they're supposed to work. Don't worry if you're like, why when I'm trying to draw with it, can't I get any paint off? Well, that's because you probably didn't remove the skin first. And you don't have to remove the skin. You can just go straight onto your artwork with your sticks. But if you do that, you're going to end up with chunks of this wax and pigment in your artwork. So it's up to you if you want your work to be very expressive and chunky and textured. You may be fine with that. It depends on what kind of outcome you want, right? So this one I just used a couple days ago, and let's see, it's already beginning to get a little stiff on top. See how when I do that, I'm not getting, because normally they're creamy. So there's hardly any color coming off on my finger right now, which means that it's already begun to skin over after about 4 days. All right. But I just go right onto my surface, and I'll be showing you that when we get over top the table. I'll be going straight to the surface and just, and if I need to, I can just pluck out the any chunks that are in there. So these are all unwrapped. Let me show you something else about these. The cool thing in particular about the Sennelier oil sticks is that they are the same colors as their oil pastels and um, their tube oil paints. So Sennelier uses the same numbering system. Right here, it says number 20. So number 20 here in the paint stick is iridescent white. So number 20 in the oil pastel sticks is also going to be iridescent white, and number 20 in the tube paints is also going to be iridescent white. So that's kind of cool if you're curious about, or you find a color that you like in an oil stick, but you say, you know what, I'd really like that color in an oil pastel. Then you can use the same number and go find it in their oil pastels for Sennelier. So that's in particular for the Sennelier brand. Um, I thought I was going to have an oil pastel here to show you. Unfortunately, I don't. They're in the other room. But an oil pastel, because a lot of times the question comes up, well, are these the same, these oil sticks, the same as oil pastels? And the answer is no, they're not the same as oil pastels. The difference is, and I've taught oil pastel workshops before, and that you can find those under the live tab of my YouTube channel. But the oil pastel has, so imagine there's an oil pastel in this hand by Sennelier. The oil pastel has a little bit of mineral oils in it, and they do not fully dry. So you have to protect those under glass because the artwork does not fully dry when you're using oil pastels. They're also creamy, they're also beautiful. They come in small sticks and large sticks, but just know that an oil pastel is not ever going to dry because of the mineral oils in it. Now, these oil sticks from Sennelier and from R&F and any other company that makes them, they are made with a drying oil. So your linseed oil, safflower oil, usually walnut oil. And so they will dry just like an oil paint in a tube will. So here's an oil paint in a tube. This is the Pebeo brand. And so if I paint with this or I paint with this, they're both going to fully dry. I was watching a video yesterday and it said these are made with safflower oil. And some people are like, well, what's the difference between using linseed oil or safflower oil? They're both oils that dry. The safflower oil is a little bit lighter in color. So sometimes manufacturers like to use safflower oil or poppy oil, also both drying oils besides linseed oil, in order to have it dry. Because it'd be nice if your painting dries. That way you don't have to put it under glass. So if you do an oil painting, it's fully dry, you don't have to put that under glass. For instance, the one I showed you earlier, this one, which was made with the R&F oil paint sticks, I'm not quite done with it yet, but when I finish it and it's on this panel, it does not have to go behind glass. Once it's fully cured, it can go right up on the wall. Okay, so that's a big difference between oil paints, which these are considered oil paints, and oil pastels. Okay, so now you know the difference. The other things it tells you on these sticks, and it's true of the Sennelier sticks, the RNF sticks as well. They tell you right on the stick what pigments are in them, what the light fastness is for this one, and then whether it's transparent or opaque. It tells you that right on the stick. Okay, let me see. Let's look at surfaces that we're going to use. Oh, one other thing we're going to use tonight as well as the RNF pigment sticks and the Sennelier pigment sticks is we're also going to use, again, the RNF drawing oils, which are oil paint in a stick, but they have just a little bit more wax in them. So they're slightly harder. They're perfect for sketching and drawing with. And I like to use these drawing oils to do my initial layers and then go back on top of the layers with the Sennelier or the RNF sticks, which have a little bit less wax in them, so they're a little juicier. Okay, but I had purchased not just this was in a set from I'm looking to see if I have the box here for the set. Yes. So this was the RNF Drawing Oils modern set, and that's what these six are. Whoops. But I also you can buy these you can buy the pigment sticks and you can buy these drawing oils in single ones, whatever colors you like to use. And so I bought a whole bunch of RNF drawing sticks like this singly. Whoops, just in a set like that, where I picked out individual colors. And so I have more colors to share with you tonight. That's always awesome. More colors are always better, right? Now, what surfaces are we going to be putting these paints on? They will work on any surface that's prepared for oil paint. So, what that means is it's a surface that is primed. You don't want to use it directly on a paper surface like this. This is usually what I use in the studio for my acrylics and for um, my watercolors. And it is the Canson XL watercolor paper. You've seen me talk about it a million times. However, this paper is designed for watercolor. And so it's very absorbent, but it does not have the sizing in it to prevent oil from soaking through. So it's not recommended to use this watercolor paper like this, unless there is a way you can prepare it. So any surface, you can prepare it to receive oil paint by gessoing the surface. So there's something called gesso, Gesso, and that is a painting primer. So yes, you can take this watercolor paper and you can prime the surface, meaning you can put a coat or two of gesso on it, and then it will be able to receive oil paint. And I mention that because if you find a good deal on a watercolor paper, you can still use it for oil paint. You just have to prep it first with something that is non-absorbent so that the oil doesn't soak through the paper, right? Because we don't want the oil soaking through the paper. It degrades the paper and then the paper becomes weak over time. So instead, what you can do, so that's if I've taken the paper and I've put a coating. I'll show you, for instance, this is some paper and this has a layer of painted gesso on it. So this could be painted directly on top of with oil paints. Now, Canson in the XL line has also developed a paper called oil and acrylic paper. So the cool thing about this paper is that it is ready to receive. It has kind of the surface feels like canvas, but it's paper. But it has been prepared, it has sizing in it, so the oil will not soak through, which makes it awesome for using with oil paints because I showed you my painting earlier, this one that I did on this paper. And because the paper is a little bit absorbent, this dried faster, right? The oil paint dried faster. And I like in Florida when oil paint dries faster because it's so humid here. It's very difficult to get oil paint to dry fast here. But now I found the trick is if you put it on that oil paper, it will dry faster. So it's a special paper made just for, if you find a paper that's specifically made for oil and it'll say on the paper for oil paint or for oil pastel, then you can use it for oil painting with these sticks. Now, something else, this is a company that makes a lot of surfaces, Fredericks. They'll make a lot of canvas surfaces. And I find, like, you see how this says value series? I got these at Jerry's Artarama. So the cool thing is that it is something that you can experiment on because they're very inexpensive. And this is actually a like a cardboard that has your canvas sheet put right on the front. Isn't that cool? So they're very economical. And if you want to experiment with your oil paint sticks, it's a great surface that's a little more stiff than the paper. And let me see here. Don't I have here? I have some artwork that I did. Yep, here we go. Oh, let me try not to fall over there. This is the same panel. And so this was an oil paint stick painting that I did on it. And this was an oil painting from the tube. So I used tube oil paints and I painted this one. So that's on those um, more economical boards so that you can use those to experiment on while you're getting to know how these work. And one more option that I like for experimenting on before going to stretched canvas, because a lot of either panels or stretched canvas is used for oil painting. Um, but let me figure out where I'm going to put these. Okay, right there. Um, if you really want to scribble and practice and play and scrape and do all kinds of stuff like that, you can use something like this, which is a canvas pad. So not a canvas paper pad like the Canson XL. This is actually canvas. It's just not stretched onto stretcher bars. So you can buy in various sizes these canvas pads, and that's why it's going to be so good to have my drying rack here, right? Because I can work on a more inexpensive canvas pad like this. This is canvas with gesso already pre-primed. And so I can work on these. And then when I'm done, in order to dry the oil paint, I can stick it on the rack. It'll be great. Because this is a lot more economical than working with stretched canvas. And then it can be put in a mat and then put in a frame either with or without glass. All right. So this is an excellent option, I think. I like working on the canvas pad myself, but that paper, I just discovered the paper, the Canson XL paper, and I am in love with it right now. Now, as far as um, some of the tools we'll be using, this is a palette, also from Blick, but this is palette paper. So it's actually a thin paper that has a coating on it, almost like a wax paper. And so I can put the paint on that. If I wanted to pick it up with a brush, I can use the palette. And so I do use my palette a lot with oil painting. And as well as you can use a standard palette like this. So this one's acrylic. They come in different colors. And so you can put the paint on there and actually put your thumb through the hole and hold it like Bob Ross, right? Bob Ross would hold it, and then he has his paint on there, and then he goes on with his brush. So any of these paint sticks, you can actually put the paint directly on here. This yellow from last week is still wet. Do you see that? Why? Because this surface is acrylic, so it's not absorbent. And so that paint is staying moist like an it's just regular oil paint. It just happens to have that little bit of wax in it. All right, I have to clean my finger off here. Okay. This is a little clip. I love this because it's a little clip that you put your solvents in when you're working with oil paints and using a brush. Oftentimes you want to use some sort of solvent, something to thin out the paint. So I showed last week, my favorite is this Lean Medium by Chelsea, and it has a little bit of solvent in it, but the solvent is what do they call it? Like petroleum free. This is a non-toxic solvent. This is also by Chelsea, and I'll have a link to it in the description of the video. This is the brush cleaner and thinner. So instead of using turpentine or odorless mineral spirits, you can use this one. It does have its spike oil essence of lavender, and it has a strong smell to it. Where if you prefer no smell, the not non-toxic version is odorless mineral spirits, and this is my favorite one from Gamblin, Gamsol. And that's if you want to clean your brushes or thin out this paint, you can use that. And that's what I use these little cups for, is to put a little bit of lean medium in one of them, and maybe a little bit of oil in the other one. So for instance, this is walnut oil. I like to use the walnut oil because look at the color of the walnut oil. You see how clear it is? But it's a drying oil. So I like using, you can use linseed oil, but I find it gets yellow faster. So if you don't paint as often, the linseed oil goes yellow and not, a lot faster than the walnut oil does. So that's why I use walnut oil, because I don't oil paint every week. So, but that's the perfect, for having these on here. I would put walnut oil in one and either the lean medium for thinning it, or I would use the essence of spike oil in there. So this is definitely a good tool in the studio. Now I'm not going to use it tonight because we're at the table here, but when I'm working on an easel and my painting is straight up and down, this is what I use to put my paint on and go back and forth to pick up my paint from it if I'm not using directly from the stick. But I love painting directly from the stick. So let me set that aside. Oh my goodness, let's try not to get oil paint everywhere, which is what happens to me. I end up, when I paint with oils, I end up getting oil paint everywhere in my hair, on my clothes, which is why you definitely want to wear an apron when you're oil painting. Okay, palette knives, super important when you're working with this kind of oil paint because it's thick and it's chunky. And so you're going to find you're going to need your palette knives and brushes. So the brushes that I use for oil painting are this little bit stiffer hog hair brush. So a normal brush would be like this kind. This is a white Taklon, or you can also use a golden Taklon like this. But the thing is with the Taklons, they're a little softer. So if you have two colors and you want to sort of softly blend them together, I find using a Taklon brush like this golden Taklon is soft and it'll help give you those soft edges. But if you like texture and leaving texture, which is what I like on my artwork, then I like using the hog bristle brushes. They're a little stiffer, and that's what this one is right here. Okay, and you're going to be cleaning these in either the spike oil or you're going to clean it in the odorless mineral spirits. Now, some people use turpentine, and so turpentine would also be a cleaner or a thinner for oil paints. Okay, is there anything else? Another thing that I use in the studio are these little brush stands to try to keep the paint. It keeps the brushes from rolling around, plus it keeps it up off the table so I don't end up getting oil paint or acrylic paint everywhere. Oh, one other thing I'm seeing on my table here, because sometimes people ask, is about varnishing the artwork after using the either the oil sticks or even oil paint. And normally you don't varnish your oil painting until the oil painting has had a full chance to firm up, like the whole thing dry all the way through the layers. So depending on where you live, that can take anywhere from a month to 6 months. But after that, you can apply a varnish to it and it brightens up all the colors. It's amazing. Well, here from Krylon is a UV, so there are UV protectants in it, archival varnish. And this one works for, it'll say here, acrylic, watercolor, oil pastel. So even it's a fixative for oil pastels, colored pencil, and oil. So yes, you can use this on oil paint. There are different versions of these UV archival sprays from Krylon. So you do need to look at the label and make sure that it's going to work for the type of work that you're doing. Okay. If it's acrylic, oil, watercolor, oil pastel. And this is a good all around one. I'm just going to leave it there for a second. If you want to take a picture, notice this one is gloss and it does come with other finishes as well. So a handy one to have around, I think, um, for your paintings for after they're fully dry. Don't use it on them when they're not dry yet, otherwise it can crack. But if they're fully dry, awesome. All right, let's go up over top of the table. So we are going to start a sketch with using the RNF drawing oils. So these are new, relatively new. And like I said, they are oil paint with more wax in them. So they're a little bit stiffer than the Sennelier or the RNF oil paint sticks. So this is the brochure. I just pulled this off of the RNF website. And right now there are 40 colors. So there are your colors right there. They'll probably extend the color range as they become popular. But right now, this is our set of colors for the RNF drawing oils. And I just have a little plastic container, like a lid to some kiwis. And so just some way to hold the colors that you're working with. It's helpful to have them in some sort of container. I do have other colors here. that I purchased recently. So there is a titanium white, a cadmium yellow. Look at this color. This is turquoise blue, absolutely gorgeous. So we will be playing with those for sure. Um, Let me move these boxes out of the way here. I also have some fun, these are a whole bunch more greens and blues, so I think those will be good also for what we're working on here. And so, like I said, you can get the sets of the RNF drawing oils. Where's the box? Like this. 6 of them come in a set. There is a landscape set. This just happens to be the modern set that I got to play with, and I'm already in love. They're fantastic. Um, okay, and then this other one has more of your pinks and purples, which oh, I don't think we'll be working with the pinks and purples today. So this is the pinks and purples. Oops. There we go. So that's orange, pink, and purple. Huh. This warm orange, this is a warm pink. Actually, I have orange right here, so I think I'll stick with the oranges and reds, and we will not use these today. Okay. So I'm going to set those aside, but it is an investment. But if you fall in love with oil painting like I have, oh my gosh, it's fabulous. Now, underneath here, I have, let me make sure this is kind of in the center there, right? Underneath here, I have a piece of wax paper. So it can be helpful to just, to me, it's a very inexpensive way to protect your table to use wax paper. So I just put a little wax paper down here because I can also scribble on the wax paper if I want to with some of these colors. So for instance, if I wanted to use this color, I could scribble over here and start it going. Now you're going to notice you see this little bit that's right here. That's a bit of the wax. So the top of this, no colors coming off, right? And that's because there's that layer of wax on there. So that's one of the things that I use my palette knife for, is just taking a very thin layer off the top in order to expose the paint. Now the paint is starting to come off. And I also will normally take a little bit off of the edge, because if I want to draw with it, I'm usually drawing with the edge, not just with the top. So I'll take some of that dry, waxy surface off of the edge as well. Okay, now this is fully ready to paint with. So let me get a piece of paper that I have here. This was what we were using last week. It's a same piece of this Canson XL oil paper. And now with the drawing oil, isn't that amazing? It is so creamy, but it gives me the ability to draw with the drawing oils, and I love that. So let's take a look at one of our pictures here. I think we're not going to do this one right now because it's more of a horizontal effect. I think we'll do this picture right here. And if you are interested in downloading these pictures, um, my reference pictures, you can go to my website. That's Dietzart, DIETZART.com. And under the events tab, and now it'll be under a past event because it's already started, um, you will find these. There are 3 of these reference pictures in there for you. So this one looks like a lot of fun with this is just what it looks like from the air. I don't know what the heck these circles are that they do in the in the landscape, but I think they're cool. They look really cool. So this is the image that I'm going to use as my reference. So I'm just going to put it up here. So it's in front of me. And then maybe if I move this down a little bit and move these over to here, maybe you'll be able to kind of see that a little bit more. You can see it a little bit more in the image. So let's take this paper. And what I notice about these, what's interesting about looking at the landscape from the sky is, do you see the lines that are here? I find that fascinating. So we're going to start by putting the lines in. And I'm going to use the uh, drawing oils because I like to do my drawing with the drawing oils. Now, what color do I want to use for that? Well, see, if I tried to do white on white, I wouldn't be able to see it on the paper. So we have to pick something that has a color to it. And I'm thinking maybe this Celadon color. This is my favorite color of all time with any of the oil sticks is the Celadon. I can go straight to the paper if I want to, like this. And what's happened is it's pushed that little bit of wax surface away. So you don't have to strip it down first. You can go straight to your paper, or you can go ahead and do the take it off. There are lots of bits on here right now. I'll show you in just a second. So what I'm doing is I'm giving myself some reference lines from the image here. So there's that, and then there's one coming off this way. And since you can layer these just like you can layer an oil paint, don't be too worried about it if it's not going exactly the way you can just paint right over top of it, you know. It's okay. Okay, so there's a line here. So I'm more or less using this as the image as a sort of a jump off point. So there's another one that comes along here, but then there's a line that comes up here. So I'm kind of working with the geometry of the landscape and getting myself some reference points here. But you see all those little bits there? We're gonna pick those up in just a minute. Okay. But you can see the convenience. They're not too goopy or sticky. That's what I like about the drawing oils. Okay, so I have that line there, and then I have this really funky. Okay, so now I need to start drawing some circles. I need to draw a circle. So let me get this orange because there's like funky. Now they're not exact circles, are they? They're more ellipses because I'm looking at them at an angle from the sky. So don't worry yourself too much with making perfect circles. It's okay. It needs to be something a little more elliptical. So that's one circle there. And then let me do a circle down here with the blue. Oh, you know what? There's some lines here. Let's use like a dark green. This is why it helps to have a bunch of different colors, right? So I'm going to use a cream color and then a green. So I'm just using that image as sort of a jump off point. You can refine this later. And then the cream again, and then this, and then the cream again, and then this. So I'm just going to start with that. I like the idea of using some cream, some of the green right in here too, even though that's not in the picture. Now I'm going to show you there are a bunch of bits on here because I didn't take them off first. And there are a bunch of bits on my surface. Can you see them? So if you want to remove those bits, one of the ways you can do it is with your palette knife. So I'm just running over top of this and picking up the bits. Can you see them right there? Lots of bits. So we'll just take off the bits like that. Remember, we're just making a sketch in this first layer. So I'm just going to take the bits off. So that's why some people don't worry with the drawing oils about taking off that initial coating because they're just going to come in later with a more juicy stick like these and go right over top of that. So There, I've got a bunch of those off of there. There's still a little bit right there. Okay, cool. There's another circle down here. So let's see what colored. I'm going to use this one right here. You see where there's a color on there from the last time I used it, right? So before I put it on here, I'm just using my paper towel and I'm just took it off. Bye bye. It's not there anymore. Okay, so now I'm going to do another one of these circles, but this one's actually a little bit bigger. Just an oval like that, right? Now I went over top of this line, so if I want to bring the line back, I'm just going to scrape off the purple. So that gets most of the purple off of there. And then I can come back with my light green and put that line back in. There we go. So now that purple is more or less gone from that area, right? Ah, I'm going to go through this stick so fast, the Celadon. I know I am. I know I am. Oh, okay. So next to this one, there are two more circles right here. So these are going to have to be much smaller because there are two of them, right? One, two, like that. They're not to scale, which it doesn't matter if they're to scale or not, right? We get to play. This is our time to play and create however we want. And that's why I think it's good to be able to sketch out ahead of time what your ideas are, um, because you can always go over top of it and change it with the oils or the juicier oil sticks. But those are decisions you can make later. Okay, let me do, there's another one right here. So this is definitely not directly to scale from the picture right there, but it's okay. It's okay. Like that. And then what else do we have? We have another one. So these two blues are slightly different. This one is Azure blue, and this one is Provence blue. And you can see one of them looks more purple, right? So this is a blue with more red in it. It makes it look purple. So I'm going to come over here, and it looks like there's another circle right here, co-joining that one. And there's also another circle right up here. Okay, there we go. So it's getting those going. Now, how am I going to differentiate between these circles where they touch on the edges? Well, later when I'm laying these in to the actual painting, I can come back with one of these drawing sticks and go around the edge in a defining color, like maybe this dark green or a dark blue, and then that will help to define the edges. So right now I'm just figuring out what is the basic design going to look like, and then later I can come back and work on that. All right, so we're going to put one more circle in here. Oop, wrong color. It's all right. I'm just going to go right over top of it with this color. There we go, like that. And these, like I said, elliptical, because when you're looking from the sky, if you're not directly over it, if you're looking at an angle, they're not going to be exact circles. Okay, great. And then over here, we're going to put, why don't I put one right here? Now I'm making things up, okay? But I'm an artist, so I can do that if I want to. Now, what is over here? There's something really interesting over here. Right now, I'm going to put it in with this. This is another one of my favorite colors. So here we've got the Celadon green I was showing you as one of my favorite colors. This is another one. It's not white. Okay, this is the white right here. This is a yellow. It's brilliant yellow, extra pale. So I have also purchased this before in the really big sticks. So the RNF oil paint sticks you can get much larger. And so I've actually purchased this color, the Brilliant Yellow Extra Pale, in the super large sticks because I use it so much instead of white. It has that very warm, soft feel to it. Okay, so I'm going to put this one right here. Yeah, so using it instead of white, I find is really good. I'm actually going to fill in the middle of this one already with that color. There we go. Yellow extra pale. And I'm going to put another line right here because it looks like we need another line to hook up with these. There we go. Okay, now bear in mind I don't have all of these colors in the oil paint sticks right now with me. So I may not be able to have the exact color to go on top. What else do we need to do over here? We've got some interesting sort of squares or shapes like this, and then like this, and then like that. So I'm just going to put this one in here. So creamy. That's why it's nice to work with these oil sticks. They're so creamy and they have good texture to them. So I'm going to show you in just a second. I'll bring it up so that you can see how lovely the texture is. Okay, so that's that one right now. And let me just sort of bring it up so you can see. See how I filled that space in, but do you see the little bit of texture that's there? That's from the wax that's in it. It gives you that beautiful texture. Oh, so nice. Okay. And what else do we have? Let me move this over a little bit so it's in here. There we go. In the middle there. All right. Let's see what else I want to put in there. I'm just trying to define some of the spaces before I go on with loads and loads of color. So there's another up here. I'm going to put another block in here like this. There we go. So I am looking at composition. So that's what I'm doing right now is I'm setting up the composition. Okay, so there's one of those. And there's some here as well. Okay, so, oh, I'm starting to smell the linseed oil now from these drawing oils because they do smell like oil paint. They're not nearly as strong as a tube of oil paint. Okay, let's see, where else? Where else? Where else? There's an interesting circle over here that's half. I'm going to put it right next to this one. It's half light and half dark. So let me do half light and then the other half is dark. So let me find this and I'll just put the other half here as dark. I thought that was kind of interesting. So notice this color right here looks one way when it's down by itself, and it looks a little bit different when you have, there was yellow there. So it's blending with the yellow. So you actually can blend these together right on your surface. So if I want to do something with this one, I can take, what if I take this like the turquoise and I'm putting the turquoise in here, but I had a yellow there, didn't I? So it is combining with that yellow to give me a beautiful soft turquoisey green. So you can layer these and get other colors just like that. So now that's got more of a creamy sort of green, uh, more green than it was turquoise. Okay. Let's take a look here. I need to get a cleaner cloth. Mine is pretty grungy at this point. Okay. So I feel like I've laid out quite a bit of the design here. Let's go ahead and figure out what we're going to do to fill in some of these other areas. Um, let me think. I like I'm looking here to see what colors I have and then make some determinations. I'm going to fill in this orange one. So this orange one's going to be our pop of color right here, right? Because isn't everything else sort of green, yellow, and blue? And then here we have a crazy looking orange. There we go. Okay, like that. Oh, so pretty. And there's a lot of texture in it. So if I bring it up here, can you see that texture? You don't need to paint with anything other than these drawing oils. You can make an entire painting just with drawing oils. It just won't have quite as many layers of texture and complexity, and maybe even detail as you would if you were using oil paints from a tube on a brush. Okay, let's see what next I want to do. I want to start laying in some more of these greens. So I'm going to bring that. Is this the Veronese green? No, chromium oxide green. Okay. This is chromium oxide green, and I'm going to bring that in here because this is more of a true green. Let me bring that here. I'm going to bring it here and up here so it kind of anchors the painting. There we go. Nice. So what you're going to notice when you're working on canvas or this canvas paper is that it takes a lot of paint to fill the tooth. So I'm going to bring it up so you can see what I mean. If you're looking here, there's a lot of the white that's showing through the background. And so if you want, instead of that white to show through, if you want a specific color to show through, like let's say you want a um, pale kind of brownish orange, you can put a wash of acrylic on this paper first. So a thin coat of the color you want to show through the background, and then let that dry, and then you can oil paint on top of that. Like I was showing you earlier, you can use acrylics on top. You can use the oils on top of the acrylics. But for this project, I'm fine. I'm okay with that. Let's put some of this in here. Because you have this nice small stick, it makes it easier to get into tighter areas. Now I've got a lot of bits coming off of here, so I'm going to take some of that off while I'm working the little bits. And I definitely want this area up here to be more of this dark green. Okay, here. Let's get that in there. I don't always go all the way to the edges because on something like this 9 by 12, when you put the 9 by 12 into a mat, these edges are going to be covered for at least a quarter of an inch, if not more. And so you don't have to do your painting all the way to the edge. It's important to know, like, how are you going to use the painting? Are you going to put it in a mat? If you're going to do a panel like this one that I showed you earlier, you want to bring your artwork all the way out to the edges because that's going to be a finished artwork and you're not going to be putting it in a mat of any kind. But because this is on paper, it'll be going into a mat before it goes into a frame. There we go. So this can all be refined later. This is just your initial sketch to get your colors in. And to see more of the bits there. So I'm just going to take the bits off. That's the dried the dried beeswax. Okay. I wanted to have balance, to have the darker green here and the darker green here. And then what else? Where else do I want the darker green? Okay. I want the darker green over here. Okay, so we're going to bring the green in here. I am going to be going on top of it with the sticks, the oil sticks in different colors. So it's okay. This is just the initial sketch, the initial drawing. Thank you, RNF, for the drawing oils. These are just so dreamy. Okay, there we go. So that's a little bit more there. And I'm thinking I probably want to do some of it here. So I'm evaluating as I'm putting the color in. I'm evaluating, okay, where else do I want it? So it's the painting looks balanced. Let's do that there. If I get this green in with the orange, what's going to happen is I'm going to end up with a brown because when you mix green and orange, you get brown. So if you don't have brown, you can do that. You can mix the green and orange together to get a brown. And I can do that right on the surface if I want to. Okay, so we're beginning to get some continuity going there. Where else? I'm going to want to put some here to balance that. Okay. Like I said, don't worry. You don't have to be maybe stuck with it in those places because you can just go right on top of it with another layer. Okay. I like the creating the grid and then working inside the grid, I think is great. Okay, there we go. Nice. I also like, and you may not have considered this before, but I like leaving edges sort of undone. So not filling the whole thing when I'm working on paper like this, not only because of the way that you're going to mat it, but also because let me show you this other one that I is finished. You see how this edge is sort of funky and ragged like that? I love that. That's just my personal, I like seeing that. And to me, it's okay. It may drive other people crazy. If it drives you crazy, then go ahead and, put the paint all the way to the edge. But I actually like to leave a little bit of the edge undone. And then that shows, oh, this is an artist thing. This is something that the artist does. Okay, there we go. So I'm feeling a little bit better about let me look. The nice thing is that I can see this in the camera. I can see where the painting is going and make a determination if I want to move some of the colors around. Okay, I think that's it for this chromium oxide green at the moment. Let's look at what is another green. Now this is the Verona green, Veronese green. So it's got some blue in it. It's like a very deep turquoise, and that's the color that I put in here, the Veronese green. And I like the Veronese green. So let's see where else we can use the Veronese green. I think right here would be great to use the Veronese green. There we go. Nice, right next to that cream color. I think it looks really nice. Okay, bits, there are little bits everywhere. I'm gonna stop at one point and just clean the bits up. There we go. So there's that one. And then where else do I want to use this? Definitely over here somewhere. So I think I'm going to use it over here, but I want it to go from here. see, get that a little bit more in the center there. There we go. Go around here. And then I'm going to be doing it from here. Okay, cool. So now I have a little green here, a little green here, a little green here. You want to look at, how's your viewer's eye going to be moving around the page? So there's that. Uh, nice. I like it. I like it a lot. I love it next to this cream color. I think it looks fabulous. Okay. And then where else? I think maybe over here somewhere. So let's bring it in. Maybe I'll just fill this whole space over here that's not inside the circles with this Veronese green. I can always go over top of it with another color and change it. When in doubt, use a lighter color because it's easier to darken the color with a darker version of whatever your color is. It's a lot easier to do that than to try to lighten a dark color. Of course, you can go in with your white or you can go in with this yellow extra pale if you do want to try to lighten an area. But I find it's easier to go lighter and then add dark if you want to. Okay, there we go. Right there. Now, I was just thinking I also want to use some of that Celadon somewhere else. Let's use the Celadon somewhere else because I just love that Celadon color. So this color right here that I've used for the grid, let's use it somewhere else. Let's see. Maybe we'll bring it into, we'll bring it into this area down here. Like that. Remember, it's light, so I can always darken it, right? I can always make it darker if I decide I don't like that color there. Okay. Just bring it here. All right. Nice. Ooh, that's pretty. Pretty. So that means since I have it here, I want to put it up here because I want to have balance. Balance. I'm always looking for the balance. So I'm going to put it over here. And then I'm actually going to put it up in this corner. Right here. There we go. So that we have a little bit more of that color in that area. All right. Now we've got some balance between these two corners. We have balance between these two corners. It's a lot, right? I liked that. Thank you, Salmon's Girl. I'm not quite sure which section that was. I just looked up. You know, when you get into the throes of painting, right? Then I just looked up. Okay, so what I'm going to do right now, I guess I need to fill this area, don't I? Right here. What am I going to do? Let's use this lighter green right in here, which I haven't used anywhere else yet. Oh well. Let's use this one in here. I can always darken it, right? Because it's a lighter green. I can always go over it if I don't like that pop of green right there. Okay. Let's do that. And like I say, I'm using these grid lines to sort of figure out where the composition, what the edges of the composition are. Okay. Ooh, I'm loving that color. I'm telling myself, okay, I need some more of that down here for sure. Okay, let's do that in that corner. What I found I did with the other one, the other painting of a landscape from the sky, is I went back later and used my palette knife, and anywhere that it went over top of this grid line, I just pick up the paint like this with the palette knife because it's sitting on top of that grid line. So I just picked it up like that if it went over top, and that gives me a sharper line. And then I can come back with this and go right back over top of the line again and bring it back. There we go. So that's how you can sort of fix an area if you went over top of something and you went, oh my gosh, I didn't mean to go over top of that. Okay, so let's take the bits off. Bits here, bits here. That Veronese green has lots of bits. Okay. And then I'll just do it quickly down here because I don't have to show you all of them, but that's periodically, that's what I'm doing. I'm just going back through and picking up the bits. All right, bits down here. There we go. Now, once you get to the point where you want texture, you're not going to be doing this with your palette knife. You're going to build up texture and leave the texture there. But it's just when I'm doing the initial outlining, I like to pick up those wax bits. Okay. So here, some of it went over that yellow. I'm going to scrape up as much of it as I can of the Veronese green, and then I'm going to go back in with the yellow. There's the yellow extra pale. I have to watch the top here because if the top had other colors on it, I want to wipe those tops off before I go back in. Okay, there we go. So I'm just defining those edges again. Nice. Hello, yellow extra pale, my friend. I feel like I have too much on here now. I'm going to throw that away and get myself a fresh one. So there we go. Fresh and clean. Now, I feel like because I have the orange here, I feel like I'm going to want to actually maybe make half of this orange. Half of this is going to be orange because I feel like I need to bring orange somewhere else. I usually follow a rule of, um, a rule of odd numbers. So 3, 5, the 1 is okay, but I'm feeling like I want to do something else here. And how about this one right here? I'm actually going to do this. I'm going to combine the blue and the orange and make it kind of brown. Remember I said if you combine orange and blue, you're going to get a brown. So I'm going to go in here and it's still in that orange family. It's just a darker version of it. Okay. Just do this. Now, if I look at it and I go, I don't like that at all. You see how I'm taking it off of there? If I decide that I don't like it, if it's like too brown or too mousy, then what I'm going to do is scrape it, right? That's why your palette knife is definitely your friend when it comes to this. You can scrape it up and then reapply the orange and let's see what happens. So I'm going to get that brown off of there. And I'm going to reapply the orange, and now it looks much more orange. It still has a bit of the brownness because it's over top of the brown, but it's decidedly more orange. And that's what I wanted. I wanted it to be more orange, but not completely orange. Okay, awesome. So that's less brown, meaning there's less blue in there. Okay. Let's do this again over here. Because there was some blue here along the edges, this is a little bit brown and a little bit brown, but that's okay. They originated from the same orange. So to me, they're going to talk to each other within the composition. Okay, if they're coming from the same colors. Let's look at adding some more of the blue in here. So this was my um, azure blue. I'm going to just fill this in with the azure blue and fix the edges a little bit. And here, okay, just fill that in a little bit more. You can still see the paper through there quite a bit. Okay, we're going to bring the blue in here. I like putting the blue next to the orange because they're opposite of each other on the color wheel. And so they look good next to each other, but they make that brown color when you mix them together, right? I'm going to grab my color wheel so you can see what I mean. Woo, let's get that orange off of that stick. Okay, so on the color wheel here, the blue, or let's look at the orange. So if you have an orange and you mix it with blue, well, let's say you mix it with yellow, you're going to get like a lighter peach color, right? But if you mix the orange with blue, you're going to get, see that mousy brown right there? So I was expecting to get a kind of a mousy brown, but it just went a little too brown for me, which is why I wanted to pull some of that blue out. But it helps to have your color wheel handy if you're not sure what your potential result could be. Just look on the color wheel and it will tell you so that you can avoid, potentially making a mistake. Okay. And then these are more of a purpley. This is the Veronese, no, Provence blue. So let's go ahead and get these. It's a purpley blue. I think it's beautiful. It's a beautiful purpley blue. And let's get this half of this one. Phew, okay. And then we'll do this one right here. All right, cool. I'm not making them too dense. I can always come back and add more. I'm just wondering what is the color here that we're looking at. So I'm going with the right colors. Okay. Nice, nice. I like where it's going. But I'm thinking this one right here needs to be more of this kind of purpley color than the other blue that was there. Maybe I can mix the two together. Okay, so I'll put a little bit of the purpley blue and some of this blue, and I'll just mix them right on the surface. That's the nice thing about the color sticks is you can just mix the colors right here. There we go. That gives me kind of a in between the two. Nice. All right, and then while I have a little residual on there, I'll just go ahead and do this one right here. And there, a big chunk just came off. I don't know if you could see that, but let me get that chunk off of there. So here is a big chunk. Let me show you. There's a big chunk right there. Eat of the dried wax from that blue. Okay, so now we're looking at, I really like the way those colors blended together. So I'm going to put a little bit more of the purple in here. The purpley blue. I actually like that a lot. And I think that's it. Maybe I'll bring some of this down here. You see, as I'm working, I'm modifying, updating, changing, mixing. Okay, there. That's kind of fun. All right, good, good, good. What I'm trying to do is sort of bring them together, bring those two together. Do I want to do this one over here? Maybe this one. I'll put a little bit. There's some residual of that purple on there. So I'm just color mixing them right there. And I may just completely cover it up with the other sticks, but it gives me some idea of where I'm going. Okay. So I'm getting rid of the yucky on the edge. You see how they get totally dirty? So that's okay. That's the way it's supposed to be as you're working, right? That shows you're working. They don't have to be clean. But I do like to do just a general wipe up as I'm going so that they don't get too, the colors don't get too mixed in with one another. There, that's good. Okay, let's see. I think I'm liking where this is going. Let me just check back since I have not been watching the chat. Okay, good. We're good. And let me see here. All right, nothing on YouTube yet. Okay, good. I like the general direction that this is going in. Let's go ahead to our oil sticks. I'm going to put away the drawing oils for right now. And oops, come back. So these are, oh, there's a whole bunch of green on there. Isn't that fun? Let me just move these out of the way, off to the side. And now we're going to look at these Sennelier oil sticks. I love that they're half sticks. In the sets, they give you the half sticks. And I think those are so cool, because then that gives you something to experiment with, but without having to make the full stick commitment. This gray is so beautiful from this set. This one is the iridescent white, and you can see I've just been messing with it. So let's see if we can get that color off of it. I was mixing directly on the surface with this iridescent white. And so that's why it has that green and blue all over it. Let's wipe that off. There we go. It's just getting everywhere. When you go to throw this, like the cloth, the paper towel away, it's good to leave this out for a day or two. So if I take this artwork and I'm putting it in my stack to dry, I'm going to also put these papers with it like this if they're all wet, and meaning they're still juicy. But this will dry up in probably 2 days, 48 hours or so. Then I can throw this in the trash. It's best if you have oil paint. It's better if you don't throw it directly in the trash, because if the trash heats up, if you put other stuff on top of it, um, oil paint can be flammable. So, but once it's hardened, it's not. So you want to make sure that you're not piling lots of stuff on top of it and getting it too hot if it's not yet cured or dry, right? Okay, let's see. Look at this beautiful yellow, gorgeous yellow. This one, oh, I just love this color. Okay, and then this is a dark, 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 dark blue. The dark blue is fabulous for doing something like outlining. So what I'm going to do here is this is my palette paper. So I'm able to work on the palette paper and get the paint started if there was a film on it. And then see here, I can go around here. Remember how I said I can come back later and create those circles, the circle around it? So yes, I can do this with a brush and oil paint as well, but I really like the drawing ability of the oil sticks. And this oil stick from Sennelier is a little creamier than the drawing sticks, which from the drawing oils from RNF, which are just a little bit more stiff. They're slightly more stiff. Okay, so you see how this lets me create that exterior circle. What the color that I'm using here is actually indigo blue. So it's a dark, 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 dark blue. And that's why I like using it around the blue areas. Now, around this orange, I would normally use like a brown, but I don't have a brown. Isn't that funny? I didn't buy any browns. Heh. So actually, I think that, hold on a second. I think that over here, I think there's a brown. Yes, there's a Van Dyke brown. So I'm going to show you how I unwrap it. I did mention I was going to show you how these unwrap, right? So in this set, I think this is the Van Dyke brown right here, correct? Burnt umber, that's burnt umber. Okay, that's a little too dark. Do I want it to be too dark? No, I want this one. So this is the Van Dyke Brown. So I'll show you how I open these. And there's the plastic wrap is on there, but there's an opening right here at the top. So I'm going to go ahead and put a palette knife in here and push and try to snap it. Okay, did it snap? Yeah, it snapped. Okay, good. Now you'll notice that I'm taking some of, like when I take the plastic off, do you see some of the, it looks like some of the paint's coming off. It's actually not the paint, it's that hardened wax coating, which is fine because now right here, I've got good juicy paint showing right here because I've taken off that bit that has the wax on it, right? Now, what I did the last time I unwrapped all of these, I used a blade. So this is an X-Acto knife, and I found it was easier for me using the X-Acto knife to pull this off. There we go. So you can either start from the top like I did, or you can also around the bottom, there's a little exposed area, and I also did this, snapped it, and then was able to more easily get it off from the bottom too. Okay, here we go. We're gonna pull off, see, we pulled off the wax part right there. Now this looks a little grungy, but I'm just gonna firm it back up with my finger here. There we are. Now it's very creamy, very creamy. Oh my goodness, it's so beautiful. Okay, so now let's use this, my palette knife, because I put some of the blue right here, didn't I? That dark blue. Now, because these are a little juicier than these are a little drier, these are juicier. So the juicier paint is coming up more easily. Okay, this, yes. So I'm able to get a lot of that blue right off of there. That dark blue, anyway. Okay, and a little bit more. Yee. Okay, so that helps. And now I'm going to take this Van Dyke Brown and I'm going to go around this side right here. So where the orange is, instead of putting a blue around the outside, the indigo blue, I wanted to put a brown around the outside, which makes more sense if you've got orange on the inside, right? There we go. Let me just deposit more over here. Interesting. Fun. Okay, so this one up here, I'm going to use the Van Dyke Brown. I can see why I might want to use the burnt umber because the Van Dyke Brown is a redder, lighter brown than the burnt umber, which was the other stick that I was looking at. Okay, there we go. And I'm just wiping it so that I can get some of the orange off and keep the shape I want. Okay, let's bring this right around here. Nice. Now I just went right over top of my grid line, but that's okay. I will bring it back. I will bring it back here in just a moment. Okay. Fun. Fun, fun, fun. It is so fun to paint with these. Actually, it's like it's drawing. It's drawing, but with oil paint. So there's a big, big chunk over here. So I'm taking the chunk off. And then the area where the grid line is, what am I doing? I'm just pulling it up like this. And then I'm going to put some of that Celadon back over there. Here, Celadon. So here's my Celadon. And I'm just going to go right back in there to redeposit the Celadon. There we go. So now I've reestablished my line, right? Let me leave the Celadon out because I'll probably need it. Now, this is the point where when you start working with these, oil sticks or the RNF oil sticks. Let me grab an RNF oil stick. You're gonna notice it's gonna just start to get messier. Ooh, okay. Here's a beautiful yellow green. What's it called? Cadmium green pale. But oh, good. Some of it is still juicy from when I used it the other day. So this one is a little bit lighter, which is going to be fun to put it on some of these darker areas, right? So I can go right over top of that darker area. And let's say I want to leave just the edges that darker, but then I'm going to, what I'm doing now is being purposeful with my strokes so that I'm actually getting, you can see the dark blue underneath and the light green on top. So let me bring that up to you here. So that you can start to see, you see the texture right there that these sticks give you. So again, this is the RNF stick, and then these are the Sennelier sticks. So let me just put some more in these dark green areas. And if I want to create these interesting textured lines, you can see I'm tapping. So instead of I could swirl if I wanted swirly lines, but in this particular case, I kind of I want these lines going like this, but I want texture within those lines. So that's why I'm tapping, 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 and that's giving me some extra texture in there. All right, now if I get too much color on there, I'm just gonna wipe it off a little bit. There we go. I don't want to wipe it off too much and too often because otherwise you end up, with a lot of color on your cloth here. And let's put some more here. Nice. But I'm leaving that dark green edge to sort of define the space. I'm right-handed, so I'm going from left to right, but you might want to, uh, you know, mix it up and go the opposite direction. Then your strokes will look slightly different if you do that. Nice. Okay, interesting. Gives you some cool looking texture there. And then the other areas, there are a couple of other areas that we have that here. There we go. And over here. Now, depending on how hard I press and how warm this is, that'll determine, how much paint will come off of the sticks. I am going to get back to the Sennelier sticks in just a moment. Just wanted to work with this RNF one for just a minute. Okay, interesting. So now we've got some interest going there with multiple layers. This one, I just need to sort of wipe the top just gently. I'm not wiping it too hard. I just want to get some of those bits off of there. And if the bits are really annoying me, what am I going to do? I'm going to use a palette knife or a blade, and I'm going to take those off if it's worrying me too much. Okay, so let's put this RNF one down here. And then that made a couple of bits. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to pull off some of the bits that got left deposited there. Okay. And then there's a little bit right here too. I don't know where that came from. Okay, let's go back in with this dark brown. So if you've worn it down and now you're beginning to get into the paper, there's supposed to be these little marks on here. So right here, there's a little indent. So you're supposed to be able to pick that up. I find it's easier with a blade. Um, so you want to pick that up, and that is where you can peel it and get yourself another section to work with, another fresh section. So let's do that. And then here we go. Ooh, nice. There we are. What's nice is they put the color down here near the end this way so that, until you get this much left, you can see what your color is. And then that way you can reorder that color number if you want to. Okay, let's make sure this is depositing color. There's a little bit of a film over it, so let's take some of that film off of there. There we go. Just a little bit. We have to expose the paint. There we go. Now, if I end up with some paint on the inside here of these little bits, I can actually take a brush and pick that up if I wanted to. But most of the time, I'm working with sticks this size and the larger size. And so I don't even worry about it. I just keep going. Keep going. I don't worry about the tiny bit of paint that went on there. Okay, so now I've got an area that I can work from. Now, let's do this. I think this would be kind of cool to go over top of the Veronese green with this darker color and really deepen it, right? Right along there. Nice. Okay, that's cool looking. And then over here, what if I do, instead of going this direction, what if I go this direction? Let's just see if I make marks in this direction. This particular color is not as juicy, so it's not giving me as much texture as the RNF stick. So let me expose some more, because what was happening is I was running into that harder exterior. There we go. Now, instead of buying these short sticks, if I buy the longer sticks of the Sennelier, they're more juicy like the RNF are. So these are a little stiffer, being smaller, but the bigger Sennelier are more juicy. I think this particular color is just not as juicy as the light green is, but I'm getting some texture here. Let's see. It's not coming off as well as this one was, but let's try some more of it up here. When I paint with soft pastels, so those are the dry pastels, and oil pastels, I often will use this tapping motion if I want to deposit more of the paint. So this is a technique that I use across different mediums. Let's see. There we go. It's getting a little bit of interesting texture to it when I do that. Let's try this over top of there. Now, let's say that I put this in here and on there, and I'm like, I think I really want to blend the color together. And maybe I want to leave these areas textured and I want these areas to be smooth. Then I can use a brush. So I can either come in and use a brush directly on the surface like this and smooth and blend the colors just like that, right? Now this is just blending it as it is. And that way I can get rid of some of those white spots that I was talking about, where the paper is white. So I can come in here with the brush and I'm actually filling in those little white areas. And I'm blending the colors right on the surface. And then I'm going to show you in a second you'll have brush marks instead of having um, marks from your using the blocks. So let me get this little area and then I will show you. So especially if you want to do like cut a crisp circle or something like that, you can do it with the brush here and blend that all in together. So the brush is excellent for blending areas. Let's just do this and then I'll bring it up and I'll show you what it looks like. And then let's say I want to blend this edge right here too. Yee. Blend, blend, blend. Okay. And now I'm tapping because I actually want to get some texture in there. First, I blended it to mix the colors together, and now I'm tapping because I want to give the surface some texture. Okay, so let me bring that up so you can see it. Can you see that in there? So now you don't see so much of the white background, do you? And you also um, can see some of the brush texture as I was tapping in there. And you see like the swirl texture from these other ones, especially this one, the swirl. Okay, let me see if there's anything else that I want to show you now. If I wanted to clean this brush right now, I'm just going to wipe it. And usually when I'm oil painting, I have multiple brushes. So if I'm working in different areas, let's say this one, I'm going to keep it green. And then this one, maybe I do the red. This one, I might do a yellow. I try to keep them somewhat the same shape though, if I'm using different colors so that I have similar look to the strokes. Okay, you don't have to do that. But so in other words, what if this was my greens and this was my yellows, right? If I wanted to do something like that. That way I don't have to keep cleaning the brush in between each color. I find it's better. I even have multiple, many palette knives so that I don't have to um, clean the palette knives as often either. So I'm just picking up some bits there. I'm looking to see what else I can show you technique wise. Here, the yellow is so pretty. Let's just get the edge off here of the yellow so I can expose some of the color. Come on, yellow. You can see I've worn them down from the last one that I did. Now, I like this Sennelier yellow. Which yellow is this? This is, huh, they call it something brown. I can't tell exactly what it says. I would have to look on the box, right? It says it's golden brown, they call it, but to me it's yellow. So, but it's a golden yellow, isn't it? So I'm wiping it on the paper towel so I can get some of that wax off and get down to the paint. And then let's see what I can do with this. What if I want to make this light yellow a little bit, give it a little more definition? There we go. Nice. A little more yellow. And then maybe I'll come in here. I'll do the same with these. So the lightest color is on the bottom here. And now I'm coming on with a more punchy yellow and adding some marks. Or I could do this and actually just mix it right on the surface, right? So now I'm mixing this golden color together with the yellow like that. One of the things I like to do is I like to give my sections, if I'm not giving them lines like taps, I like to do swirls. So let me get the edges here and then we'll swirl the middle of this and I'll show you what those look like. I love doing the swirls. because I just think it looks so interesting on the surface. That's the thing with this kind of doing an impressionistic type of artwork is much more textured. So the paint is going to end up being very textural. And so I like seeing the marks that the artist is making. So for instance, I could come in here now and swirl this area. Now that I've already sort of covered it, I can swirl it, and then I'm going to show you what it looks like. I think it looks amazing. I love the swirls. Swirl, swirl, swirl. You can actually see the swirl in the paint, which you can't get that effect with a brush like you can with the sticks. Let me swirl this area right here, and then I'll swirl this one, and then I'll show you what the effect is of the swirls. So cool. So cool. Okay, let me bring it up closer. So here you can see the brush marks, the tapping marks, and then the swirls. Can you see the difference there in all of those? That. So, and there's the swirls and there's the tapping, right? So those are some of the different ways that you can use these drawing oils and the various oil sticks, the Sennelier oil sticks and the R and F oil sticks. All right. So I am going to finish this off camera because you don't need to watch every single stroke. I know it can be mesmerizing, but see, I'm even noticing right here that I missed a spot. See, so when you go back and you look at it, that's when you go, oh, okay, I need to fill that in and fill that in. What am I doing here? Chromium oxide green. I think that was what was in here. Supposed to be in this little corner. So I'll be filling in these different areas, giving them different effects with the swirls and the taps. Then I will come back in and I will perfect these lines, these grids. So I'll be coming in and I'll be stripping out colors that aren't supposed to be there, like that. And then reestablishing those lines to keep them clean. All right, I hope you enjoyed that. And that's the end of the workshop portion of the show.